I'm I'm Dr. Volki Falahi. I am your host for tonight. We also have the wonderful Jen Jackson, who will be doing all of our IT and Zoom management. Um, this webinar, as you just heard, is recorded. CE certificates will be sent with the survey by email by this Friday. This is a mandatory CE course for licensure renewal, excuse me. You must complete the full 2 hours in order to receive credit. Be sure to rename your screen name if you don't have your name already on your screen name. And if there's more than one of you that are watching or you're participating via one device, please type in all the names in the chat, or you can email us at sdds@sdds.org, those names. If you are joining via phone, please email us your phone number so we can verify your attendance. If you have any questions for Joy during the presentation, please put them in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat and we'll bring those to Joy's attention. So it's my honor to introduce our speaker tonight, Joy. She is within two decades of experience in the dental field. Joy began her journey in 2005 after graduating from Gallon College in Modesto as a licensed RDA. She built strong and lasting connections with both patients and dental teams across multiple practices. Her passion for the field eventually led her into dental education. Joy has served as an instructor, program director, curriculum expert for Modesto Junior College's dental assisting program, the leader of the Patch 80-hour course. She also serves as a certified instructor for the American Heart Association's BLS program. She's an active member of the American Dental Assisting Association and the Foundation of Allied Dental Educators. Please give a warm welcome to Joy Brack. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you so much. Hello, Sacramento. I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me. It's a wonderful opportunity. And I am so excited to be here and present with the Sacramento District for your 2-hour mandatory dental practice act. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Like Dr. did share, if there is any questions, please feel free to ask as we go through. I love the interaction and I love the questions. There is obviously some wonderful changes that are happening this year. And so hopefully we can answer some of those questions for you as well. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch over here and let's get started. All right, so yes, once again, we are this evening reviewing as we go through the California Dental Practice Act for 2025. We have a lot of information and we have 2 hours, so we are going to go ahead and get started with the presentation. I do have the course objectives for this evening. We have 8 different sections that we're going to be going through. First, just doing a quick summary, once again, of who the Dental Board of California is. We're going to go through our governing bodies. We're also going to be reviewing utilization and scope of practice for the auxiliaries and also the updates for the auxiliaries. We're going to be going through scope of practice, laws governing the prescribing of drugs, the citations, fines, revoking of licensing, suspensions, mandatory reporter status, and license renewal. And as I continue, Doctor, can you hear me okay? Is the volume okay, projecting okay?
Yes, it's great.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so let's start with our first section here. And I like to do just a quick summary Once again, who is the Dental Board of California? What is their participation and what is the impact that we have in dental from the Dental Board? So the Dental Board of California is part of the Department of Consumers Affairs, the DCA. And DCA was established to ensure that businesses and the professions that engage with activities such as impacting our public health, the safety and the wellness of the people in California, and that we're adequately regulating in these areas. Their mission is to protect the public, being at the highest priority for the Dental Board of California, also referred to as the DBC, and exercising its licensing, regulatory, and disciplinary functions. They also include the following: promoting the health and safety of consumers in the following areas, also ensuring that licensing those in dental healthcare professions are also demonstrating competence. They also take action to maintain the appropriate standards of care for our patients and team. And last year, enhancing the education that we need as licensees and consumers. So when it comes to our actual dental board, who is on the board? Well, there's actually two committees. There is the standing committee and the ad hoc committee. The president of the board does appoint the chairperson and most of the members to each committee. So we do have here the standing committee. Their involvement is the examinations, they do the enforcements, and also diversions. The ad hoc committee, this is the involvement of continuing education, licensure permitting, legislature, and infection control. As far as the dental board members, there is 15 members. We have 8 practicing dentists, 5 public members, 1 RDH, 1 RDA, and then the DDS, RDH, and RDA, they have to be practicing dentistry in the state of California for at least 5 years prior to the date of their appointment. So these are the board members. Separate, we also have the DHBC, and this is your Dental Hygiene Board of California. So this was established in 2009, and there is 9 committee members for the Hygiene Board. All right, their statement here is to protect the public and meet the oral hygiene needs of all Californians. So any questions, any changes for hygiene obviously goes through the Board for Hygiene in California. So what is the regulatory powers with the dental board? So it's important to understand that the dental board has the authority to create and promote regulations regarding the practice of dentistry. They request for new regulations and or changes in our current regulations. And it comes from several different resources, 7 different sources, including organizations. It can come from individuals and also state agencies. So let's take a look at our legislature. So in California, legislature considers legislative bills, which can also influence the practice of dentistry. So let's take a look at this and understand how the process and how these regulations are implemented. So once a bill is approved by both the House of Legislature and the governor signs that bill or allows the bill to become law, it will become a statute and is considered a law. So any changes to that statute would require that an additional bill be authored and carried through the legislature. Once that bill is law, now the dental board may require to write and approve regulatory language to implement that statute. So basically, we're just building that recipe for that certain recipe. Now we're building everything, all the ingredients that need to be a part of that law. There is also influence with the stakeholders. So a stakeholder is any professional organization. It could be a consumer group or other stakeholders that may bring an idea or a concern to the board, and that affects the practice of dentistry. May request new regulations or change in current regulations, and then the board has the authority to consider any such requests. If the board decides to pursue any new regulations, they are bound to follow a specific step by step that includes public notices, public hearings, oversights from the Department of Consumer Affairs, and also review by the Office of Administrative Law. So this process and the regulations typically take around a year or longer. So this is our first little section here. And Doctor, is there any questions so far as we start and jump into who the Dental Board of California is?
No questions yet.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to keep going. I know it is the evening time. So our next section here is looking and reviewing over scope of practice. So what is the scope of practice? Why is this so important? Well, we actually are having quite a few changes in our regulations. So this is really important, especially in this evening's course here in training, and just understanding what changes have been implemented already and what's to come. So when it comes to our scope of practice, the laws and regulations specifically define the duties that a dentist and each of the allied health professionals are allowed to perform in dentistry. The regulation also defines the level of support from your dentist, whether it is the supervision of direct or general. Along with this, we have the ADHP, and they may perform some of the duties as well. So I'm going to pause here for just a minute, and I'm actually going to bring up for you, they have made changes and even the template for the allowable duties. So give me just a moment here. And I am going to bring up the table of duties. And Doctor, are you able to see the table of duties? Perfect. All right, so I just wanted to share, that way everybody can visibly see the scope of practice and the change that they made even with this table here. So going down to our categories and the definitions of categories, there has been a change implemented here. So you'll see now CR. So this was implemented, revised here January of 2025. There is now a new category called CR, and this is course required. So the meaning means that a course must be completed by that dental auxiliary prior to performing.
Joy?
Yes.
Joy, right now, we're looking at an application for registered dental assistant. I think the page, or it shared the wrong thing.
Okay, let me take that back.
There we go.
Now you can see it okay?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. Okay, so let's try this again. So here we are, our categories defined. You'll see here in this category, CR is updated. This is a revision here. So this is course required, meaning that the course has to be completed for the auxiliary to perform that duty. This is something new. And we also can see here the direct and general supervision that is, has been, and making sure that we meet under those standards, whether it's direct or general supervision. And once again, when we're talking about direct supervision, that just means that the auxiliary has to be performed with the dentist present in the facility, not necessarily in the treatment room. All right, so I just want to just reiterate that. Along with general supervision, that means that the doctor gives that instruction, but does not have to be present in the facility at all. So as you go through, going down here, for the DA, you can see now under the categories, it shows direct, general, and then having that course required. All right, so once again, if they are taking any type of x-rays, they have to have that course completed, and it is obviously a dental board approved course. Scrolling down once again, this is a newer standard here, a new regulation for chronopolishing, which we will go through the presentation, but chronopolishing starting January. Once again, this is now a function that the DA can perform once they have their certification. Once they have their certification, previously, they would have to actually wait until they were an RDA in order to perform this function. Starting January, they can actually perform this function. All right. So we'll go through these just a little bit more, but I wanted to share with you that way you understand as you're looking through, that you understand how you're reading it and the auxiliaries now and how they're categorizing. I'm going to bring us back. All right. So back to our presentation, we have scope of practice, which we just reviewed, our table of permitted duties, and what we are looking at now, and making sure that if you're licensed or unlicensed, that you understand your scope of practice, what you are allowed to do. That is not only your doctor who regulates, but yourself as the professional, and what skills, what functions you're allowed to perform. So as we reviewed the table of auxiliary duties, I already shared, but once again, we have our direct supervision in general. So just having an understanding that if it is direct supervision, the doctor does have to be physically present in the facility, but not necessarily in the treatment room. General supervision, the doctor does not have to be present, and we are allowed to perform those skills, those functions in the practice. So for dentistry, scope of practicing continued, we have dentistry. Dentistry, once again, this is our diagnosis, treatment by surgery or other methods of diseases and lesions, corrections of malposition of human teeth, alveolar process, gums, jaw, or associated structures. So this type of diagnosis or treatment may include all necessary related procedures, including the use of drugs, the use of anesthetic agents, and physical evaluation. Implemented October 8th, 2021, dentists can also administer the flu and COVID-19 vaccine, and this has to be with the age of 16 and older. They do have to have the appropriate training, in addition to applying for a prerequisite laboratory licensure to conduct the rapid COVID-19 test in office. So continue with our scope of practice, dentistry is not in the practice of the following: prescribing weight loss medications, administering injections for Hep B, and performing any treatment that falls outside of the defined scopes of practice. So once again, referring to our table of duties. ADHP, so scope of practice for the allied dental health professionals. While the DBC and the DHBC examine licensed dental assistants and dental hygienists, respectively, a licensed dentist must provide direction to all levels of ADHP. So this is, once again, in the allowable duties, making sure that we know coming in, if we are an allied health professional not licensed, we have to still stay in our scope of practice. So for the dental assistant scope of practice, unlicensed dental assistants hired on or after 2010 were required by the first year of employment. We had 120 days to complete the following for the unlicensed dental assistant. That is your 2-hour Dental Practice Act, your 8-hour infection control course, and then your basic life support, not CPR, but BLS. All right, that is for the allied health professionals, and it had to be active and stay active. Implementing in January of 2025, the new requirement is that all unlicensed DAs shall complete an 8-hour IC course immediately prior to any exposure of blood, saliva, or OPIM. So if you have a roving assistant, one that might work in the front office and back office to support when needed, if they are around any type of infectious materials, they do have to have the 8-hour IC immediately. Okay, so this is once again a new law that was implemented in January of this year. Continuing with the dental assistant. So once again, a dental assistant is someone, a professional who is unlicensed. They can perform basic supportive dental procedures. All right. A lot of this, depending on the general supervision or direct supervision, making sure that, yes, we are following the scope of practice. The supervising dentist is responsible for determining the competency of the dental assistant to perform your basic supportive dental procedures. This includes the following: charting, record keeping, sterilization tasks once they have gone through your 8-hour IC course, infection control duties. They can transfer the FACEBO, intra and extra oral photos, bite registrations, and intraoral impressions for non-prosthodontic appliances. So once again, reviewing scope of practice, you can reference back to your table of auxiliary duties, but these are once again some of the functions, scope of practice for the DA. Updating scope of practice for the unlicensed dental assistant. Again, we have, starting January of this year, an unlicensed dental assistant who successfully completes the board-approved corona polishing course will be able to perform corona polishing under direct supervision. So this, once again, used to state that our DA had to have corona polishing in order to apply to become an RDA, and then had to wait to practice this skill until they were an RDA. Now implemented this year, the DA, after taking this course, can perform these functions in office. So moving to the registered dental assistant. So now as the RDA, registered dental assistant, this is a licensed professional. They may perform all the same duties as the DA, as well as additional duties under direct supervision that include the following, but not limited to: the application of varnish and fluoride, the application of sealants after they have went through the board-approved program or course for sealants, and they must have evidence for completing the board-approved course. This, we'll talk just a little bit more with this scope of practice. Currently, RDAs after taking this course can do this function. Currently, DAs that take this course have to wait until they're an RDA. If you're going through the work experience pathway to become licensed, you do not have to have your PNF certification. You actually have to have it by the first time you renew. There is an update, and it is coming July. The update is they will have to have their sealant certification in order to apply. So I hope that makes sense for everybody. I try to say that to the best of my ability here, but before July, if you have not applied for your RDA, you do not have to have sealants. After July 1st, you will have to have your sealant certification through the work experience pathway.
Joy, we have a question.
Sure.
The question is, who do we reach out in order to get a DA into classes for coronal polishing quickly and easily?
So that really just depends on your area. There's wonderful resources. Look for board approved courses also on the dental board website. They will share a list of all the providers, and then just picking one in your location that works the best for you. But that would be my number one resource, just going through the dental board website. And they share a list of all the providers for coronal polish, for the 8-hour infection control, and for sealants. In the Sacramento area, I do know the Fade Institute does provide these courses, DA to licensure. And so other than that, I would take a look at your area and what works the best for you and your needs. Perfect. Is there any other questions, Doctor?
Not at this time. No.
Okay, thank you. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. If you are trying to apply for your RDA, just make sure if you are applying before July, you will have to have sealants before the first time you renew. If it's after July, you will have to have this certification. All right, so continuing with the RDAs licensing here, we have starting in 2010, they are able to mechanically prepare teeth. They're allowed to place bonding agents. They're allowed to place etchants, bonding solutions, bases, liners, all right? Also allowed to adjust and finish direct provisional, okay, provisional temporary restorations after completing a board-approved course in these duties. Okay. Supervision of the licensed dentist is responsible for determining whether an authorized procedure performed by that RDA should be performed under general or direct. So once again, we have the laws that say this function can be under direct supervision or general supervision, but ultimately your doctor can make that decision as well in their practice. All right, so within these specified clinics, coronal polishing, application of topical fluoride, and the application of sealants are allowed by either the RDAs or the EF under direct supervision of the RDH or also the RDH AP. All right, so looking at the scope of practice for the RDA EF. So this is your registered dental assistant extended functions. So after January 2010, they may perform the duties and procedures. So if you haven't heard, there is an RDA EF1 and an RDA EF2. So in 2010, they implemented some changing in their scope of practice which became the term RDA EF2. Now, an RDA EF1 can go back and test in these skills and become an EF2, but you cannot obviously be a 2 and going back to a 1, if that makes sense. So they have advanced their skills and training as the 2. So we have to understand the scope of practice. If we are an RDA EF1, they actually have less functions that they're allowed to perform than the EF2. Okay, so with that, we have, as far as some of the duties here that are listed, the RDA EF can cord retract. They can also take the final impression. They can size, fit endodontic master points. They can cement endodontic master points. They can take the final impression for a permanent indirect restoration. They can also take a final impression for removable prosthesis. They're allowed to polish, contour existing amalgam restorations, place, contour, finish, and adjust all direct restorations, and adjust and cement permanent indirect restorations. So as far as the restorations, that is an EF2 function. So an EF2 is allowed to actually place, contour, and finish direct restorations and permanent indirect restorations. So once again, just knowing our scope of practice, even with the licensing for the EF1 and the EF2, there is a difference in what they're allowed to perform with their functions. So a new change, once again, implemented and effective January 1 of 2025, the EF can now, here, registered dental assistant extended function who completes the board-approved courses on radiographic decision-making and interim therapeutic restorations can perform those duties starting January 1. The EFs will be able to take a radiograph for a patient not previously seen by the dentist and perform the interim therapeutic restoration under the specified condition. So I just also put in so you can see what that definition is. An ITR is a temporary dental restoration, typically made from either glass ionomer, and it's used to stabilize a tooth with decay or other issues, particularly with young children or patients with special needs, when definite restorations cannot be placed immediately. Okay. So once again, this took effect on January 1, 2025. For the ortho assistant and dental sedation assistant permits. So for scope of practice, the DAs, RDAs, EFs who meet specified work experience and course requirements who pass a written exam may obtain an orthodontic assistant permit or dental sedation assistant permit. So first, we have to have the work experience requirement. They complete 12 months of experience as a DA. Training may not begin prior to 6 months of work experience. Okay, so they have to have 12 months. Board approved course requirements, Dental Practice Act within 2 years, 8-hour IC course within 2 years, basic life support. All right, so I want to express again, we have seen this quite a bit. A DA that has taken their 8-hour IC and their Dental Practice Act previously, but it has been longer than 2 years, the dental board is requiring them to take these 2 classes again prior to being able to sit for their boards. So once again, if you are going for your ortho permit or sedation, this has to be current within 2 years that you've had those 2 courses. And it can't be a renewal course. Obviously, it has to be the 8-hour IC and then your Dental Practice Act. All right, so with that, then part of the board-approved course, Dental Sedation Assistant course, or the orthodontic course of 84 hours. examination requirements, successfully completion of the written exam in the specific permitted areas. Scope of practice for the RDH. So for the hygienist, so the practice of dental hygienists include dental hygiene assessment, the development, planning, and implementation of dental hygiene care plans. This includes the following: our oral health education, nutritional counseling, oral health screenings, root planing, polishing and contouring restorations, oral exfoliative cytology, apply Pitt and Fisher sealants, preliminary examinations, irrigate subgingivally with an antimicrobacterial and antibiotic liquid solution. We also have the registered dental hygienist in alternative practice. All right, so the alternative practice, a DHAP may provide services to a patient without obtaining written verification that the patient has been examined by a dentist or physician and surgeon licensed to practice in this state. So hygienist with alternative practice, providing services to a patient 18 months or more after the first date that he or she provides services to a patient. All right. Prior to the establishment of an independent practice, they shall provide to the committee documentations of an existing relationship with at least one dentist for referral, consultation, and the emergency services. The individual must also have the following: minimum of 2,000 hours during the immediate preceding 36 months of either California or another state, bachelor's degree, completion of 150 hours of the approved educational program, and passing the written exam in California law. And this completes our next section. And Doctor, how are we doing? Is there any questions that we have so far?
No extra questions yet.
Awesome. I'm going to keep rolling. Let me know and I will pause.
Will do.
All right. Our next section for Dental Practice Act is licensure. So to practice dentistry in California, you must graduate from an ADA's Commission on Dental Accreditation, so CODA approved dental school, or a board approved school, dental school, and fulfill licensure examination requirements. So each licensed dental professional must maintain their license by completing the CE requirements and also paying our fees, our payment for renewal fees every 2 years. So it is the employer's responsibility to verify that all licensed employees are currently licensed. So we have to make sure as the provider that of the employer that everybody is current with their license. So beginning 2020, the board will no longer accept applications from foreign dental schools and must instead obtain CODA approval. Previously approved foreign dental schools must obtain CODA approved by January 1, 2024 to remain as an approved dental school in California. So for the dentist, there is 5 different pathways to licensure. I went ahead and listed the 5 pathways here. All applicants must have successfully passed either the Part 1 and Part 2 of the National Board Dental Exam, the NBDE, or integrated the INBD, okay, National Board of Dental Exam. So effective January 1, 2025, there was one change for the pathway. The changes non-clinical licensure by credential pathway. So dentists licensed in another state who practice non-clinically for a specified time and a role that requires an active dentist license, such as public health, will now be eligible to apply for a California license using the licensure by credential pathway. For the hygienist to become licensed as a RDH in California, we must have a minimum graduate from a CODA accredited hygiene school or hygiene program in the United States, complete the dental hygiene national boards, successfully complete the DHBC approved clinical examination, or graduate from California DHBC approved hygiene education program. Also providing verification of completion in the courses, administration of local anesthesia, soft tissue curettage, administration of nitrous oxide and oxygen, and your BLS. For the alternative practice, must hold a current RDH license, have been engaged in clinical practice as a dental hygienist for a minimum of 2,000 hours in the preceding of 36 months, possess a bachelor's degree or equivalent, complete 150 hours of an approved educational program, and then pass a written exam by the DHBC. For the RDA, all right, the RDA, there are now going to be 4 pathways. So I wanted to just kind of show you the 4 different pathways. So starting July, there is going to be a change in the pathways. Currently, there is 3. And I'm going to actually bring this over. Give me just a second here. And if you wouldn't mind, doctor, can you see the application?
I can't.
Okay.
Now I can.
Okay, thank you so much, doctor.
Of course.
All right, so with the application, I just wanted to share, there is different pathways. I'm going to go back one here. If the RDA, the DA wants to become licensed as an RDA, there is currently 3 different pathways. The 3 different pathways, the unlicensed dental professional can go through a board-approved pathway. They can go through a dental board-approved program, 10-month program approved by the dental board, and they are able to sit for their RDA right after they graduate. Okay, there is requirements per that program, making sure that they have all of the course requirements in order for them to be board approved. So they will have IC, DPA, Corona Polish, Pitt and Fisher sealants. That was a requirement for this pathway in 2010. The work experience pathway, you can actually have a DA go through 15 months, 1,280 hours, and take these courses upon that time while working chairside with the doctor, and they're able to apply. There's also the blended pathway. The blended pathway allows the unlicensed DA to go through maybe a non-board approved program that was however many weeks, let's just say it was a 12-week program. They can take those weeks, those hours they went through school. They have the school validate a form that shows that they were there for this experience, along with working with you, the doctor, the employer in a dental practice chairside. And with the combination, as long as it's been 15 months and 1,280 hours, and they have the board approved courses required, they're able to apply and sit for their boards. Okay. So the required courses, we have the radiation safety, coronal polish. They also have to have their 2-hour DPA. They have their 8-hour IC, and then their basic life support. Once again, just making sure it's a provider that the dental board recognizes. If they don't recognize the provider, they could have you take your BLS again with a provider that they recognize. Okay, so that just shows you the 3 different pathways here. And I am going to bring back all right. And bringing back now, they are going to have a 4th pathway, which I will talk about in the next slide, starting July 1, 2025. And this is what they're calling the preceptorship pathway. So either one of these, once again, having the skills and the training and the experience with your doctor chair side. Now, this isn't front office skills, this is your back office skills. So if you have that time invested with your DA, they can use that to help them obviously apply and get their license after the 15 months, 1,280 hours. So going through, once again, we have the following that must be completed: having a active BLS certification, live scan, and we'll talk about live scan. This is your fingerprinting. We'll talk about that just a little bit more because there has been some changes with the live scan as well. There is the 2-hour DPA, the 8-hour IC, there is the radiation safety, and there is the coronal polish. After that, they sit for their boards and they do have to pass their examination. So let's talk a little bit about the new pathway that is coming in July. So the new pathway that's coming in July, a high priority for CDA has been addressing critical dental workforce shortages. I know everybody's feeling, I can't tell you how many dentists reach out to me and ask, do you have any students? Do you have anybody that is looking for employment? I am in need of a DA, an RDA. And so I know that we can all feel in all areas of dentistry that there is a huge need. So this is also a reason why this was built, was to also help educate and give quality education, and in basically a shorter amount of time than the 15 months and 1,280 hours. All right, so the new preceptorship pathway to shorten the timeline on the job training, this is including 800 supervised hours, inclusive of educational and clinical experience. All right, so educational and clinical, which is great. The current standard in board-approved RDA educational programs is 800 hours. So this will create parity between the educational program and the on-the-job pathway options. The existing 15 months on the job training pathways will continue to exist as well. We'll have the 4 pathways. CDA will develop educational offerings for members to use in training their RDAs on job. So basically your DA can continue their experience in your practice, but take courses that they can count those hours of training, and in the combination, create that 800 hours. So this allowing individuals who move to California and hold a certified dental assistant certification from the DANB to apply for the RDA licensure without having to start training at the beginning. So this is wonderful as well. All right, and that was for the RDA. Continuing with the RDA EF So to become licensed as a registered dental assistant extended functions in California, you must meet the criteria of currently being licensed as an RDA. You have to be licensed as an RDA. You will complete a board-approved course of instruction in all advanced functions in the RDA EF category. So you will go through and learn and train in the skills of the RDA EF. You have the written exam. There is no practical portion. They have went away with the clinical examination for the RDA and for the EF. There is only one written exam for both now. Okay, so passing the written exam administered by the course provider. Okay, so displaying of license. This has also had an update and change starting January 2025. So when it comes to our display of license, there is no requirement that licensees must be posted, but with our professions code 1700 provides that person is guilty of a misdemeanor and subject to disciplinary action if any person engages in the practice of dentistry without causing to be displayed in a conspicuous place in his or her office, the name of each and every person employed there in that practice of dentistry. So a healthcare professional shall disclose on their name tag, at least at an 18-point type, his or her name, their license status, or promptly display their license. If somebody were to ask, they would have to be able to display their license. Since dental offices themselves are not licensed by state, the owners has the discretion to make an exemption for an individual employee from the name tag requirement for individual safety concerns. Okay, so implementing in January 2025, licensees and permits for all licensed dental professionals and now certificates of completion of the board-approved radiation safety, coronal polish courses for the unlicensed dental assistant must be publicly displayed within the practice or facility where treatment is being provided. So once again, this is making sure that publicly, if they have gone through the board-approved coronal polishing, radiation safety, those courses you have to have providing their certification for. So what happens if we do not follow for the requirements of the licensee? There is violations. We have the misdemeanors and we have failure to report. So I am not going to read through each one of these, but these misdemeanors, once again, are in the Business of Professions Code, section 119, and it does show all of them. For example, here, display or cause a permit to be displayed or have in his or her possession either of the following: canceled, revoked, suspended, or fraudulently altered license. Okay, so in compliance with our CCR 1018.05, within 30 days, a licensee must report, okay, bringing of an indictment or information charging a felony against the licensee. We have another update. They were working hard for 2025. We have another update here, and this is fictitious name permits. So previously, dental practices applying for a fictitious name permit had to list the term dental, group, practice, office, in addition to the family name of one or more past, present, or prospective employers of the group. So with this, starting 1 of 2025, dental practices with an FNP no longer need to have an owner's family name associated with the practice name, but it must contain the dental group, practice, office, or corporation. For our special permits and certifications, licensure continuing for our DDS for our doctors, patient sedation permits, updated 1/1 of 25, and general anesthesia permits. So oral conscious sedation for adults, pediatric moderate sedation. So an update in January, dentists to be able to use their pediatric residencies to qualify for adult minimal sedation permits. Okay. And then we have moderate sedation, deep and general anesthesia, and then another update here in January 2025, dentists holding general anesthesia permits will now be required to complete advanced cardiovascular life support training during each renewal period, in addition to their basic life support requirements for their dentist license. So you'll have to have both. For the RDH, we have special licensing to perform periodontal soft tissue curettage, local anesthetic, and nitrous oxide. For the RDA, our registered dental assistants must be certified to complete and perform the following: ultrasonic scaling for only orthodontic cement removal, placing of our Pitt and Fisher sealants, coronal polishing, and exposure and processing of radiographs. The DA unlicensed, although the DA is unlicensed, each must have California Radiation Safety Certificate if they are required to expose processed radiographs. So once again, a DA has to still go through the board-approved course for radiation safety before even touching any of the equipment for taking x-rays. And this even involves the pano. Okay, so if you want your DA to perform radiation safety, taking imaging, they do have to go through the course. And an update, once again, coronal polishing. Now, starting in January, a DA can go through their board-approved course and training for coronal polishing and apply those skills right after. For the ortho assistant and sedation permit, we have dental assistants, registered dental assistants, and registered dental assistants in extended functions who meet specified work experience and the course requirements and who have passed that written exam may now obtain an orthodontic permit or dental sedation permit. And it'll go through, if you go on the website, it'll give you more information on what is required for these two permits. So now as we look through renewing of our license, what is the requirements by law for renewal? When it comes to license renewal for any category, for all dental professionals, every 2 years on their practitioner's birthday. So on your birthday, this is how they have implemented when you will renew. Unfortunately, if your birthday is coming up and you have just gotten licensed, you can receive a renewal notice. They will have you pay the fees, but you're not required to do the 25 or however many CEs required until the next renewal. Completion of the renewal form, your CE requirements must occur prior to that expiration date. So what are your mandatory? You have to, mandatory CE requirements. We all have to have active basic life support, either through the provider that they recognize. Once again, be careful. Make sure that you always verify on the dental board website that you are using a provider that they recognize. If not, they could deny that provider. We also have our 2-hour California Dental Practice Act, which is why you are here this evening, and I appreciate your attendance this evening. We have infection control. I hopefully will have the pleasure of each one of you for next week as we go through IC. And then we have responsibilities and requirements for the prescribing Schedule II opioid drugs, and that is 2 units. So the CE requirements, this goes through for all licensees. So if you are a doctor, it is 50 units every 2 years. For the RDA, it's 25. RDH 25, RDH-AP 35, and retired DDS also 50 units. There's wonderful resources. Once again, thank you so much, Sacramento District Dental Society, for putting together these CEs to keep us all qualified and licensed professionals in our community. So once again, thank you. We have our CE categories. So what is the categories? What are we allowed to take courses in? Well, we have our mandatory, which we just discussed. We also have our core. All right, so core, this is courses directly related to the actual delivery of dental services to the patient or the community. We call this core. We have supplemental as well. Courses considered to be primarily or benefit to the licensee, such as practice management subjects. This is, once again, your supplemental. We have another update. So January 2025, they have also implemented qualifying CE courses in mental health. All right, so continuing education that is focused on mental health and wellness or the impact of diversity, equity, and inclusion on the delivery of dental services will qualify as core. So once again, if this is a CE, this is under your core. So looking at our categories here, once again, we have our core and our supplemental. We have minimum of 80% has to be of core, 20% supplemental. And I have quite a few here as examples for each category. Give you just a moment to review. All right, we have now, can it be all online? Well, no, it has to be in between having our live interactive, and then it has to be, you can have the training such as journals, online courses that are already pre-done. So you have your live, which is interactive, and then your home studies. Okay, so the 50-50 rule applies. 50% of the licensees required units may be taken through home study, non-live courses, work defined as articles, journals, webinars, online. So CEs that are not approved. So do not take a CE course of the following. Courses considered to be outside of the scope of approved continuing education, including but not limited to courses in which primary beneficiary is the licensee. So such as money management, personal finances, physical fitness, weight management, personal health. We also have presentations by political or public figures that do not deal primarily with dental practice. So record keeping for the licensure. So making sure that you retain copies of the CEs, and this is verifying for a period of 3 renewal periods. So anytime you take your CEs, you should have a nice binder, and each binder, tab it per year. And you want to make sure that each renewal tab you keep for 3 years or for 3 renewal periods before discarding. they can actually audit you for up to 3 periods. A licensee does not need to send evidence of completed CEs. So once again, this is your own ethical duty to validate on your renewal form that yes, you have completed these CEs, and if they were to audit you, you would have to show proof. We have the inactive status. So what is inactive status? This means that he or she must continue to pay their renewal fee, but is not required to complete the CE requirements. So you can actually be inactive. Maybe you're in between. You're at home with little ones and decide that you can't currently work. So should I keep my license active or inactive status? This is a good example of that. You can still pay the fees and keep your active as an inactive status, or there's the expired license or canceled license. So expired license has expired and can only be renewed by payment of the required renewal fees and delinquency fees for each renewal period. A license that has been expired for more than 5 years is automatically canceled and cannot be renewed. Okay. And that completes another section. We are doing great. Doctor, is there any questions at this point?
Done right now. No.
Okay. Well, we are at our halfway point. Doctor, would we like to take a quick little 10?
That sounds great.
Okay.
All right. So
Well,
why don't we take a
I'll
10-minute
pass
break?
it to you.
Yeah, and we'll be back ready to roll at 6:45.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello?
All right, we should all be coming back from our break. And we are going to keep moving forward and review now our enforcement section 4. All right, so enforcement. So to provide optimum consumer protection, our Dental Board of California operates its own comprehensive enforcement program. So they have the program to enforce as needed. The purpose of the board's enforcement program is to investigate reported criminals and administrative violations in the dental profession. Complaints can come from healthcare providers, consumers, law enforcement, insurance companies, and then also other sources. Complaints regarding bills, fees, disputes, general business practice, personality conflicts are not handled by the board. And any licensee may be reprimanded or placed on probation or have their license revoked or suspended by the board. So let's review a few different offenses. First, we have the unprofessional conduct. So unprofessional conduct, failure or failing to complete appropriate CEs, your CE training. Providing fraudulent or forged evidence to the dental board. Falsifying a prescription for self-use. Practicing beyond your scope of defined in your scope of practice in dentistry. Requiring patients sign a release from all claims before releasing the records. Failure to review a patient's most recent radiographs prior to starting orthodontic treatment. Requiring a patient to sign an agreement that limits the patient's ability to file a complaint with the board. Number 2, incompetence and negligence. So number 2, failing to have a treatment plan or discuss it with that patient. Failing to implement or document precautions for handling a pediatric patient who had undergone heart surgery. And last, covering a pediatric patient's mouth or nose to calm down the patient. Gross negligence is failing to properly review a patient's health history, failing to take a full mouth series of radiographs during the 18 months of treatment, performing 17 improperly filled root canals on one patient, and treating an intoxicated patient who also took a hallucinant tablet before dental treatment. Number 4, repeated acts of negligence and incompetence. The inappropriately performed multiple crown restorations, failing to complete periodontal exams over 4 years of treatment, failing to obtain a biopsy on a lesion that was present for 7 years, failing to take radiographs on an orthodontic patient for 3 years. So beginning July 1, 2020, new changes to the Dental Practice Act requires a licensee on probation by the board to provide to a patient a separate disclosure that includes the licensee's probation status. And for further information regarding disclosure information, you can also review the Dental Board website for compliance. Number 5, conviction of a crime. The Dental Board of California has the jurisdiction to revoke or suspend a license for conviction of a crime substantially related to the qualifications, functions, or duties of a licensee. So the Dental Board of California does not have to implement its own investigation and may use any court conviction as conclusive evidence. The type of crimes that constitutes ground for discipline, or those things in your personal life that can reflect upon your personal life. This include, or they could include, but not limited to, possession of a controlled substance, sexual battery, operating a vehicle under the influence of alcohol or drugs, and acts of physical violence. So once again, the dental board request for records, this is under CCR 1018.05. Failure to provide these records requested by the dental board within the 15 days of date of receipt of the request, or within the time specified in the request, whichever is later, is unprofessional conduct unless that licensee is unable to provide the documents within this time for good cause including their physical inability to access the records in the time allowed due to the illness or travel. We have number 6, our infection control. Infection control is huge. So failure to protect patients by not following RIC guidelines, thereby risking transmission of bloodborne infectious diseases from dentist to ADHP to patient, from patient to patient, and from patient to dentist or dental auxiliary is unprofessional conduct. New requirements for the change for the 8-hour IC. So once again, being implemented January of 2025, regardless of their hire date now. Previously, we had 120 days. Now implementing in 2025, an unlicensed dental assistant must complete their 8-hour IC course prior to any exposure to blood and saliva. The new requirement timeline for completing the course replaces that current requirement that the course be completed within the 1 year of hire. We have our dental material fact sheet. So the Dental Board of California has developed and distributed a fact sheet describing and comparing the risks and effects of the various types of dental restorative materials and the uses of treating our patients. The fact sheets must be provided to every new patient and to patients of record prior to performance for the restorative dental treatment. So dentists shall acquire signed acknowledgement, the receipt of the fact sheet by the patient, place a copy in the patient's chart or records, provide any updated fact sheets to the patient, and provide a copy of the fact sheet to the patient upon request. Probation. So the dental board may discipline a licensure by placing them on probation that may include but not limited to the following conditions. They can require to obtain additional training or pass a written or practical exam. They can require also both. They can require to submit to a complete diagnostic examination by one or more physicians appointed by the board, restrict or limit the extent, the scope or type of practice of the licensant, and then require restitution of fees to the licensed patients or payers for the services. And then last, provide the option of alternative community services in lieu of all parts of a period of suspension in case other than violation relating to quality of care. Number 9, the petition for reinstatement of a license or permit. So you can petition to reinstate your license. The board or the administrative law judge may impose necessary terms and their conditions on being able to reinstate a license, certificate, or permit, or modify a penalty. And that completes our section 4. Moving to prescriptions, section 5. So for our prescriptions, they can only be written by a dentist. Any individual practitioner acting in the usual course of his or her professional practice can issue a prescription for a controlled substance only as part of dental treatment. So once again, only the dentist can prescribe and write a prescription. We have our schedule of drugs. We have Schedule 1, Schedule 2 here. So reviewing Schedule 1, this is a drug or other substance having a high potential for abuse. I gave some examples at the bottom. Our Schedule 2 is a drug or other substances that has a high potential for abuse as well. The drug or other substance has a currently accepted medical use, whereas Schedule 1 does not. Schedule 3, the drug or other substance has a potential for abuse less than drugs or other substances for our Schedule 1 and 2. So this is a drug or substance that has currently accepted medical use and treatment in the United States. I gave some examples at the bottom. And our Schedule 4, this is once again a drug or other substance that has a low potential for abuse. And Schedule 5. Schedule 5, the drug or other substance has a low potential for abuse related to the drug or other substances in the Schedule 4. And I gave some examples at the bottom. So when it comes to prescribing drugs, once again, this is a prescription. A prescription is the written, oral, electronically transmitted order from a prescriber to a pharmacy or pharmacist. All right, so all written prescriptions for Schedule 2 through 5 controlled substances must be on a new tampered-resistant form. Dentists can obtain these forms from the security vendor approved by the Department of Justice. Once again, I have that link at the bottom. Reviewing administration of our Schedule 2 drugs. Schedule 2 controlled substances does not have to be reported to cures. Dentists who prescribe or administer a Schedule 2 controlled substance must maintain a record of the transaction in that patient's chart. And then our dentist must check a patient's prescription history in Cures 2.0 before prescribing a Schedule 2 through 4 substance. All right, and last is just making sure they do not exceed a non-refillable 5-day supplement. Dispensing of the drug. Dispensing is providing a controlled substance in a container to the patient for later use. So dispensing a Schedule 2 and 3 drug must be reported monthly to Cures. You must provide that patient with a written disclosure that the patient has a choice between obtaining the prescription from the dentist or obtaining that prescription at a pharmacy of the patient's choice. The drugs dispensed by the dentist must be properly labeled as well, having the prescriber's name, the patient's name, the drug name, date of issue, dosage, quantity, direction for the use, an expiration date, physical description of the drug, and, if requested by the patient, the condition for which the drug is to be dispensed. So there is a new label that was put into effect on January 1 of 2011, and the new requirements are intended to provide patients with easier to read labels, making it a little bit more easier to access. That completes our section 5. Moving to section 6, diversion program. Our diversion program, what is this diversion program? This is the legislator of the Dental Board of California that has established a diversion program for licensed dental professionals who may be impaired by the abuse of dangerous drugs or alcohol. This is a program that aims to help treat licensed dental professionals who are so afflicted and allow them to return to the practice of dentistry in a manner that will not endanger the public health and safety of our citizens in California. So the division program was established in part as a voluntary alternative approach. All right, so voluntary approach to traditionally disciplinary actions. The DBC has established criteria for acceptance, denial, or termination of the licensure. So into the diversion program, an individual may enter the program either by the following: by voluntary request or board requirement as a condition for the disciplinary probation. If that professional determines to be abusing drugs or alcohol, the board could revoke their license with the refusal to go into the diversion program, can force the individual into a diversion program, has the option to offer a diversion program as part of a rehabilitative package, and the last must offer the diversion program to all licensed individuals with drug or alcohol problem. So any licensed dental professional in California can seek assistance. This is the contact number. They are a 24-hour, you are able to contact for 24 hours a day, and all requests for information and assistance are strictly confidential. So the conditions and requirements for the diversion program. So if a licensed professional is currently under investigation by the board for any violation of the Dental Practice Act or other violations, they may request entry into the diversion program by contacting the board diversion program manager. Prior to authorizing the licensee to enter into the diversion program, the manager may require the individual to execute, creating a statement of understanding. This states that the licensee understands that their violation to the DPA or other statutes that would otherwise be the basis for discipline may still be investigated and subject of disciplinary action. So yes, there are records upon the Dental Board Committee to determine the licensed professional rehabilitation, and all records are purged and destroyed. We have the CDA wellness program as well. So if you're looking at other resources, if you're needing support, not only through the Dental Board of California, but also CDA, they have what is called the wellness program. Diversions is not the only option. The California Dental Association offers a well-being program. This program assists dental professionals who may suffer from either alcohol or chemical dependency. So to find out more about the services that they provide, there is the link below. Section 7, mandated reporters. We are doing great. We only have 2 last sections. And let's go ahead and dive into section 7, mandated reporters. So mandated reporters, who are the mandated reporters? So first, from child abuse to spousal beatings, sexual assaults, and murder, family violence covers a wide range of crimes. Statistics show that there is 25 to 30% of all American families that will experience domestic violence through caretaker to child, partner to partner, and or caretaker to the elder, abuse and violence. So as the mandated reporter, these are the individuals in all aspects of healthcare that are required by law to report any physical condition to a patient that the healthcare provider knows or reasonably suspects to be caused by another person. So in dentistry, this includes the following. Obviously, we have our doctor, the hygienist, we have the RDHAP, the RDA, the RDAEF, and the RDHEF. So once again, that is your licensed professionals are considered mandated reporters. So why is dentistry included in mandating reporting? So following our statistics, it shows that there is 75% of intimate partner physical abuse and neglect that results in typically the injuries of the head, neck, face, and mouth. 65% of the physical abuse and neglect to children involve injuries to the head, neck, face, and mouth as well. Individuals are more likely to seek regular dental care in their dental offices versus medical. And last, abusers and care providers may avoid the same physician, but will often return to their same dentist. So what are the definitions for and of abuse? We have domestic violence, child abuse, abuse of elder or a dependent adult, an adult with special needs. Common injuries include cuts. These are the things that we want to be visually looking and seeing where these locations of injuries are. So cuts and bruises, chronic injuries, cheeks, bite marks, hair pulling, earlobes inside of the head, the buttocks, lower back, lips, frenum, burns, neck marks. For the elderly and dependent, elder and dependent adult abuse is a growing tragedy in the United States. As our population ages, elder abuse has the potential to become far worse. 90% of all abusers of the elderly and dependent adults are typically family member. 1 in 20 elder adults will be a victim of elderly abuse. Our common sites to be aware is lacerations or abrasions towards the mouth, lips, or gums, marks on the wrists or ankles. So, what is your office protocol? Is this something that you talk and coordinate with your team? Do you have awareness and what is the appropriate step to take if there was a patient in need for one of the following mandating reports? So an important component of office protocol is to establish office procedures. Approach mandated reporter responsibilities as a team effort. You want to collaborate and share, assist in gathering as many observations and as much data as possible. You have one mandated reporter that can make a report on behalf of the team. It does not need to be the most senior member of the team. We suggest that the reporter be a mandated reporter to assure they receive the protection accorded by the law. All right, so within that 36 hours of making a telephone report to the appropriate agency, the mandated reporter shall complete Department of Justice form and also fax the form to the following. Clinical protocols. So once again, the clinical protocol to gather objectives, observations, begins with the patient when they enter the door of your practice. The protocol should include our general physical assessment, any kind of behavioral assessment, the patient's history, an oral exam, documentation, consultation, and determine if action is necessary. We are not investigators. We are strictly reporters, mandated reporters of any kind of suspicion, and the appropriate agency will investigate. A red flag, quote, quote, is an observation or statement that raises your concern or suspicion as a mandated reporter. After you have evaluated that person and made your observation, add up the red flags. Okay, what are your red flags? So sometimes we're nervous if they came with that caregiver, that guardian. How do we approach that caregiver or patient, parent, or caregiver? The approaching of the caregiver or patient is a delicate area and one that is intimidating sometimes to some of our professionals in dental. Sharing your concerns for the child with the parent may be exactly what the parent or guardian needs to hear. They also may have concern and or appreciate your completeness. Oftentimes, however, the parent or caregiver is relieved to be given assistance in dealing with problems that they may be suspected, but had no way to confirm. All right, so once again, you can be that voice for the victim. If you have the option of telling the parent that it is your legal obligation to report suspected abuse, negligence, and that you are trying to assist the family and victim. If you have any concerns for the child's immediate safety, always call 911. Report it to the law enforcement. If sharing the adult raises concerns for your own safety and your team and your staff, you can also call Child Protective Services or 911 without telling the parent or accompanying adult. So obtaining histories for patient and caregiver separately is possible. Is the injury consistent with the history? Is there a history of similar injuries in their past? The legal liability for the mandated reporters. There is confidentiality. So when a report is made, your identity is kept confidential. So keep that in mind, okay? The immunity, a mandated reporter is immune from civil or criminal liability when filing a report. And then the patient-provider privilege. In the case of the mandated reporting for abuse and neglect, the healthcare provider patient privilege does not apply. All right, if the child, parent, caregiver, elder, dependent adult, or the DV victim confides in you for the abuse or neglect has occurred, you must report. It is now our legal ethical duty as a mandated reporter. Penalties of failure to report abuse. If you fail to report, a dental professional suspects abuse and neglects to report, there is fines, there's prosecutions, there's up to 6 months. When the abuse or neglect results in death or great body injury, it is typically penalty for 1 year, county jail, and fines up to $5,000, and it could be both. So this is true for child abuse and neglect, elderly abuse and neglect, dependent adult abuse and neglect, and domestic violence. For reporting child abuse, report immediately. Contact Child Protective Services, a written report within 36 hours. We have the information, and make sure you download the report. Last, when it comes to documents, record clinical and behavioral findings in the patient chart, take radiographs of affected areas, and take clinical photographs and save models. There's also a list I've provided here for any kind of resources to help with the community resources, and then also their contact information. And that completes our section 7, and we will end with our final section 8 with law and ethics. So law and ethics, our introduction for this section. As dental healthcare professionals, dentists assume publicly entrusted responsibilities that are founded on the principle of non-maleficence, and this means to do no harm. All right. So some of the many characteristics of being a ethical dental professional are presented in the American College of Dentists core values. And we're going to look over the core values and have been adopted by now California Dental Association, CDA. So this chapter of the Dental Practice Act online course focuses on some, not all, but those principles and concepts that we find valuable. Having our code of ethics is very, very important in everything that we do daily, hourly, by the minute. Dentists and allied health professionals are held at a high standard of professional conduct. These standards and requirements, not just a standard, but requirements, are described in our DPA sections 1680 through 1685. And this is referred to as the Professional Code of Ethics. Supports dentists in upholding their responsibility to society and how to fellow members of the profession. So ethics pertain to professional behavior, service to the public, conduct in dental office and between dental practitioners, how dental practices and services are promoted. The dental board disciplinary cases always contain both the legal and ethical inscriptions. And then as healthcare professionals, the public entrusts dentists with the responsibilities of non-maleficence. First, do no harm. Our first is autonomy. Autonomy is defined as patients that have the right to determine what should be done with their own bodies. So because patients are moral entities, they are capable of autonomous decision making. So we have to respect the patient and the decision that they choose for the treatment. Beneficence is often cited as the fundamental principle of ethics. This is our ethics, is the obligation to benefit others or to seek their good, while balancing harm and benefits the dentist or the allied dental professional, seeks to minimize harms and maximize benefits for the patient. Having compassion. Compassion requires caring and the ability to identify with the patient's overall well-being. Relieving pain and suffering is a common attribute of dental practice. Acts of kindness and sympathetic ear for the patient, listening with empathy. Competent. Dentist is able to diagnose and treat the patient's oral health needs and to refer when it is in the best of the patient's interests. Maintaining competence requires continual self-assessment about the outcome of the patient's care and involves a commitment to a lifelong learning. We are always learning. We are always trying to gain knowledge and do better in our skills. Integrity. Integrity requires the dentist and all dental professionals to behave with honor and decency. The dental professional who practices with a sense of integrity affirms the core value and recognizes when words, actions, or intentions are in conflict with one's value. So professional integrity commits us all to upholding the professional code of ethics and to safeguarding, influencing, and promoting the highest professional standard. Veracity, often known as honesty or truth-telling, is the bedrock of a trusting doctor patient relationship. The dentist relies on the honesty of the patient to gather the facts and the information to diagnose. And the patient relies on the dentist to be truthful and to also inform for the decisions, give them all of the information needed. Honestly, and dealing with the public, colleagues, and self are equally important. And behavioral principles. In addition to ethical principles, dental professionals are also bound to a series of behavioral principles. These principles govern their service to our public, to our communities, acceptance of our patients, standards of our care, providing patients with the necessary information so that they can provide informed consent, explaining the treatments, reporting abuse, maintaining patient confidentiality, and informing patients of their present oral health status. So once again, our common behavioral principles for the dental team. Once again, as a team, everyone, all of our dental professionals, colleagues, service to the public, accepting patients into the dental practice act or into the dental practice, explanation of treatment, obligation to inform, advising, solicitations, professional titles and degrees, additional advanced academic degrees, and the billing practices. The following experts of the Code of Ethics cover some of the common behavioral principles as well for the dentist. Should be similar. We have our state and federal laws, rebates and split fees. We have standards of care, informed consent, patient confidentiality, our continuing education, representation and claims, and false misleading statements. And last, our violation of state and federal laws. And I will leave everybody with this wonderful quote from John Maxwell. Dentists encourage us to use dental floss daily to promote the health of our teeth. We need to use mental floss to get rid of the old thinking and promote the health of our leadership. And that concludes for this evening. Doctor, is there any questions?
You know, you did such a great job explaining everything. There are no questions in the queue right now.
Well, that's good to hear. I enjoyed speaking for everybody. Thank you very much for allowing the opportunity to provide and support with the Sacramento Dental Society. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Joy. That was an excellent program. Really appreciate you. Just a little bit of a housekeeping. In order to help, our dental society maintain and improve our program quality, please take a moment and complete the survey that you will receive via email. Remember, your CE certificate will be enclosed at the end of the survey for immediate download sent by this Friday. And again, thank you all of you that are supporting SDDS by being here tonight. I hope that all of you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you all in person soon. Good night.
Thank you all.
Good night.